So the very first step you're going to need to go through and do is we need to go through and we want to chisel out just a little section on each end to stop any chip out. So for this, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do it vertically, but I'd always say work down to your piece. So I'd normally say have your piece up against here or maybe in the vise, then come through and work down at your level here. But for this pure example, I'm just going to come through, place this here in my trusty vise there, and come through, and we're just going to take a little bit off the top. Then we're going to work our way down. Now the reason we don't do the whole lot in one go is because we want to make sure that we've got a little bit more control and we're not trying to chip out as much material at one go. And finally, now I'm going to come down to that mortise line where I had at. I'm going to come through and just very lightly bring this right up against that saw edge and chisel that out. Now, as you can see, I've got this down to the mortise line there. What you do to one end, you must do the other.
So what you're going to notice right here is that I'm chiseling from one edge through to the center of the piece. Now when I'm doing this, I'm only taking about 2 mils off at one go, and the reason is because we don't want that chisel to overly dig in deep. We don't want to put too much pressure or have any potential chance of it chipping out in a negative way. So we always want to take 2-3 mil off at absolute max, and then when you're getting down to your final line, you want to be taking about 1 mil, half a mil off. And you'll notice that I've gone halfway through and I'm about to put this back in the vise, spin it around and go back in from the other side. Now, the reason we do that is because that stops any chip out at the ends, whereas if you push the whole way through, you're much more likely to go ahead and get chip out. So go ahead, lock that back in your vise and come back through the opposite direction. After you've done that, the next step you want to go through and do is pairing. Now, pairing is the process of simply using the chisel to go ahead and you push through with your hand rather than with a mallet, and you just go through and take the finest cuts off to get a nice flat surface. And so ideally, as you can see, we're just bringing it through ever so slightly, ever so softly, taking the smallest amounts, just looking for anything that's potentially raised in that. I'm going to go most of the way through one side, and then I'm going to flip it around and come back through the other side to make sure that I don't have any chipping out on the end.
So after you've done this, it's time to clear out any of these excess here. Grab what you can and just remove it. But you may need to come down with this chisel and just clear that out, adding a little bit of pressure and just dragging that out. Sometimes you may need the use of the mallet, but if you're needing that use of the mallet too much, you've probably got too much going on. So to do this, I'm holding that right up against the edge, pushing down and then having a look at this. So look, she's pretty smooth, except I've still got a mark here from my marking gauge, which means I want to take this down maybe just that little bit further.